Welcome, grade 9 students, to our week 6 for the quarter 2. And for this week's lesson, we will be dealing with our block number 10, which is to recognize the general classes and uses of organic compounds. So, last lesson we discussed the hydrocarbons such as the alkane, alkenes, and alkynes. So, for today, we will be dealing with this following lesson objectives. First, name the different structures of hydrocarbons such as alcohol, aldehydes, ketone, ester, carboxylic acid, ether, amine, and amides. Second one is to identify the different functional groups and their uses in organic compounds. We have different functional groups in organic compound, and they are the alcohol, ethers, aldehydes, ketones, carboxylic acids, esters, amines, and amides. So for today's discussion, we will be dealing with these following functional groups and how they are being used on our daily life. Now I have here some compounds or some products that have a presence of the following functional group. So to answer or to identify which functional group is present on each product, here are the answers. So for number one, the stratehyde or the formalin, it is an example of aldehyde. Nail polish or the what we call the acetone, it is an example of a ketone. While the methyl butyl ether is an example of an ether compound. And alcohol or ethyl alcohol is an example of alcohol organic compound. Next one, cyanamide is an example of amides. Acetic acid is an example of carboxylic acid. Paramine is an example of amine, and ester is an example or ester C is an example of ester. So based on the following products, we can observe what kind of functional group or organic compound is present on them based on their name. It is because those products is being named based on the functional group present on them. So let's discuss each functional group of organic compound. Let's start with the alcohol. So alcohol is a functional group of or has a functional group of hydroxyl or OH. We can observe the compound as an alcohol if we will observe this functional group OH. Now the names of alcohols is ends with OL. So to name the alcohol compound, we will use OL as a suffix with the name of the parent alkene. So last time we discussed the or how we will name the alkene, alkenes, and alkynes or those hydrocarbons. So we will use that knowledge here on our lesson. So let's say for example we have this one. Remember that the functional group of alcohol is the hydroxyl. So if you will observe a chain or a carbon chain having or connecting with OH, that compound is considered as an alcohol. Now on our example, we have here two carbon. Now if we will use the carbon chain here, we will get two carbon and the prefix to be used if we have two carbons is et. So if we have this as a hydrocarbon, we will name it as ethane. Et because we have two carbon on this compound and ANE because we have one bond or single bond. Now, because this is an alcohol with the presence of hydroxyl group, we will name it as or we will cancel out the letter E on the alkane name and then we will add the suffix OL. Now, if we will combine these two, we will come up with the name ethanol. So, ganun lang po kung paano papangalanan ang alcohols. Tanggalin muna yung E ng alkene chain. then add OL to identify that this is an alcohol dahil meron siyang functional group na hydroxyl or OH. Another example, let's name this one. Yan. So let's say we have 4 carbon chain, and the prefix para sa 4 carbon chain is but. Now we will have butene as our alkene group, then we will add or we will cancel E and add OL, and the name of this compound is butanol. Another functional group is the ethers. Most of us are not familiar with ether. So ether is the functional group of ether is an alkyl group linked to an oxygen atom. It is named using or by naming the alkyls that is connected to oxygen atom, and we will arrange the name of alkyls or branch chain in alphabetical order, and we will put the word ether at the end of the name. So let's have an example of this one. Ayan. So as you can see here on our general formula, this is the general formula of ether. As you can see, this R is a carbon chain. Now, on oxygen atom, may dalawang carbon chain connected to this one. So, nasa gitna or nasa in between two carbon chain si oxygen. And that is our key para ma-identify na yung structure ng isang compound is ether kapag we have oxygen in between two carbon chain. As you can see here on our example. Yeah. Now, to name this one, we should name the two alkyl group. So, itong si oxygen, siya na yung magiging parent chain. And the two carbon chain in between are on the sides of oxygen atom, sila na yung magiging branch chain. So, we will name this alkyl group and this one. Now, the name of the first alkyl group is ethyl, while the second one is methyl. Ayan. Ethyl because we have two carbon and the prefix for two carbon is et. Then we will add YL dahil ito ay isang alkyl or branch chain. Kay methyl naman, we have one carbon. So we have or we will use the prefix met and we will add YL because this is also a branch chain. Now we will just add the two and add the word ether at the end. So the name of this compound is ethyl methyl ether. Remember na kailangan naka-alphabetical yung alkyl group natin. So we have two alkyl group, the ethyl and methyl, and we will arrange it alphabetically. So mauuna si ethyl kasi mauuna ang letter E kay letter M. So the name of this compound is ethyl methyl ether. Another example, yan, this one. So in this one, we have two carbon chain having one carbon. So if we have one carbon, we will use met, and this is a branch chain, so we will end it with YL. So the name of these two is both methyl. Now, if we have two methyl, we cannot write it methyl methyl ether. But instead, we will be using the prefix to identify how many numbers of such compound is present. So we will use the numbers mono, di, tri, tetra, and so on. So for this one, we have two. So we will use the prefix di. Ayan. So we will use di to represent that there are two metals. Then we will put the word ether at the end. So the name of this compound is dimethyl ether and not metal metal ether ha. We will use di kasi dalawa sila. So di means two. So dimethyl ether. Kapag tatlo yan, we will use trimethyl ether. Another functional group are the aldehydes. We are not familiar with the word aldehydes, but the example or most common example of aldehydes are familiar to us. So aldehydes is a carbonyl group because the functional group of aldehydes is carbonyl or with the presence of carbon connecting to an oxygen atom. So how is that? This is the general form of an aldehyde. So as you can see here, there are a carbon atom connecting to oxygen atom in double bond. That is our key na this compound is an aldehyde. Then it is connected to one carbon chain. Example. Yeah. So example here, we have the carbonyl group, this one, connecting to the carbon chain. Now, in naming the aldehydes, we will just using the procedure that we done on naming alcohols. So just count the number of carbons, then identify its name in alkene. So on this one, we have three carbons, so we will be using the prefix prop. So if this is an alkene, we will have a name propane. Now, to name this aldehyde, we will just cancel out the letter E and add the suffix for aldehyde, which is Al. So, cancel the E plus Al. The name of this compound is propanal. Another example, this one. So, if we have this as an alkene, we have two carbons, so we have ethane. Now cancel out the E and add Al. The name of this compound is ethanol. Another functional group is the ketones. Uh, let's go back to aldehydes. As I said kanina, familiar tayo sa most common example of aldehyde, and that is the formalin. Yung ginagamit for us to preserve living organisms, di ba yung formalin? So formalin is an example of aldehydes. Now another functional group is the ketones. Ketones are also a carbonyl group. So the functional group of ketones is carbonyl also, same with the aldehyde. But there are differences. Later on, I will cite the differences. So the functional group is characterized by the presence of carbonyl group in between two carbon chain. And to name the ketones, we will just add ANON or anon at the end of the parent chain. Now, here is the general formula for ketone. As you can see here, ang pinagkaiba niya kay aldehyde is that the carbonyl group is connected to two carbon chain. But for the aldehyde, ang carbon chain na nakakonect sa kanya is only one. So, let's have an example of ketone. Ayan. So, same with how we will name the aldehydes, we will just count the number of carbon and identify its alkane name. So, for this one, we have four carbons. So, we have butane. Yeah. But because we have four carbon, and ane because this is a single chain. Now, remove the letter E and add the suffix for ketone, which is anon. Then we will come up with the name butanone. Now, another example. How about this one? Three carbon chain. The name of its alkane is propane. And cancel the letter E and add anone. The name of this compound is propanone. Now, the key point in identifying if either it is an aldehyde or ketone because they have the same, di ba? Magkamukha silang dalawa because the functional group of these two is the carbonyl group or yung carbon connecting to oxygen atom with double bond. So, pareho sila. Ang pinagkaiba nila for you to recognize kung yun ba ay aldehyde or ketone is that si aldehyde is connected at the end of the chain. As you can see here, nasa dulo-dulo siya. Yan si aldehyde. Ibig sabihin, makikita nyo yung oxygen connecting to carbon in double bond sa dulo ng carbon chain. While the ketones, it is located in between or at the or inside the chain. Yan. So, merong carbon chain in between the carbonyl group. So, that is ketone. Kapag ang oxygen double bond to carbon is nakalocate in between carbon chains, that is ketone. And then, now let's identify the following compounds as alcohol, aldehyde, ether, or ketone. So I have here some compounds. We will just identify the functional group and identify which functional group it is. So for letter E, the functional group as you can see here is this one. Now if we have hydroxyl group present on a compound, this is an example of an alcohol. Ayan. Now for another one, letter B, we have this carbonyl group at the end of the carbon chain. So if we have carbonyl group at the end of the carbon chain, that is an example of an aldehyde. Next, letter C, we have an oxygen in between two carbon chain. So that is an example of an ether. Then letter D, we have a carbonyl group in between carbon chains. Ibig sabihin, nasa gitna. That is an example of a ketone. So, ang tatandaan lang is yung kanilang mga functional group for you to identify kung ano compounds sila. Now, let's move on to another functional group, which is the carboxylic acids. One common example of carboxylic acid is the vinegar, which is the acetic acid. So, carboxylic acid are characterized by the presence of carboxyl functional group. So, si carboxylic acid, ang functional group niya is carboxyl group. Now, to name the carboxyl or carboxylic acid, we will just change the suffix of the parent chain to OIC acid or oic acid. Now, this is the general formula of um, carboxylic acid. So, as you can see here, ang carboxyl group is this one. Yan. Carbon connecting to oxygen with double bond and also connecting to anhydroxyl group. So as you can see, meron siyang presence na characteristics ni aldehyde and ketone and also ni alcohol. Now, example of carboxylic acid is this one. Ayan. So, to name this one, same with the other compound na diniscuss natin kanina, is that identify the alkane group of this compound. So, we have here 3 carbons. So, the prefix for 3 carbons is prop. And this is an example of propane. But we have a functional group of carboxyl. So this is a carboxylic acid. So we will change or we will remove the letter E and add it with OIC acid. So the name of this compound is propanoic acid. Yan. Another one. We have 2 carbon. Now if we have 2 carbon here, the prefix for 2 carbon is et. Ayan. So we will just have the name for the alkene. For this one, 2 carbon, the name of the alkene is ethene. Then add the suffix OIC, acid. So the name of this compound is ethanoic acid. So that's how you will identify or name the carboxylic acid. Next one is the esters. Esters is formed from the reaction between our carboxylic acids and alcohol, wherein two alkyls are attached to O or oxygen connect double bond to carbon, carbon single bond to oxygen. So to name the esters, you will be using alkyls. So for the first name of alkyl, so you need to name the first alkyl. Then the second alkyl should be end with OATE to identify that this is an esters. So the general formula for esters is this one. So as you can see here, ito yung kanyang functional group. So, different with carboxylic acid, wala siyang hydroxyl group, but instead, ang nakakonect kay carbon is only an oxygen. So, meron siyang Oxygen, si carbon, is connected to oxygen, double bond, and another oxygen, single bond. And in between this functional group ay merong carbon chains. So, paano yan? Let's have an example. Yan. So, as you can see here, this is the functional group of esters. And besides or on the sides of this functional group ay merong carbon chain. This one. Yan. So, sabi, to name the esters, identify first the alkyls. So, para malaman kung ano ang magiging alkyl or branch chain dito sa carbon chains na to, identify yung shorter, yung pinaka maiksi na carbon chain. So, we have two options. Pwedeng ito, yung carbon chain na to, or pwedeng ito. Now, dahil meron siyang two carbon chain, so, ayan. So, in between these two, ang mas may maiksi na carbon chain is this one. So, ito yung magiging branch chain. So, first, we need to name the branch chain. So, the name of the branch chain is ethyl. Ethyl because we have two carbon. The prefix for two carbon is et. Then, we will end it with YL kasi nga branch chain siya. So, the name of the branch chain is ethyl. Now, this one would be the parent chain or the second chain that should end with OA and OATE. So we will name this one just like how we did this on this carboxylic acid. So we will have or we will identify the alkane name of this one. So we have three carbon here. So the prefix for three carbon is prop. So the name of this alkane is propane. Cancel out the E and add OATE. So the name of this second chain is this one. Pro. Yeah. Then together we will add the two names, the branch chain and this second chain. But we will put first the alkyl. So the name of this compound is ethyl propanoate. Ayan. So the name of this compound is ethyl propanoate. We will just add the name of the branch chain, yung pinakamaiksing chain, and the second chain, yung longer chain. And together, the name of this compound is ethyl propanoate. Another example. Yan. So as you can see here, yung pinakamaiksing chain is this one. At ito yung pinakamahaba. Ayan. So this would be the second chain and this would be the first chain. First, identify the name of the first chain or the shorter chain. So we have here one carbon. So this would be ethyl. Et because we have only one carbon. And we will end it with YL because this is a branch chain. And the name of the second chain is ethane. Ethane, but we will cancel out the E and we will add the suffix here, and the name of this compound is methyl ethanoate. Ayan. So that's how you will name esters. Now, another functional group are the amines. So, amines is have a functional group of nitrogen. So if nitrogen is attached to a carbon chain, that compound is an amine. To name amines, we will just name the alkyl attached to the functional group, which is nitrogen, and add the suffix amine to the end of the name. So here is the general formula for amines. So you can see here a carbon chain connecting to nitrogen atom. So that is an amines. So example is this one. So as you can see here, this is the functional group of amines, a nitrogen atom. And then this would be the carbon chain. So to name this one, ito ay magiging branch chain na. Itong carbon chain na to ay magiging branch chain. So, ang mangyayari is papangalanan natin to as a branch chain. So, we have 3 carbon here. Then, the prefix for carbon is prop. And we will end it with YL kasi nga branch chain na siya. So, the name of this branch chain is propyl. Then, we will add the suffix amine. So, the name of this compound is propylamine. So, just as simple as that. Another example. Ayan. So again, ito yung magiging parent chain natin, itong functional group. And ito naman yung magiging branch chain niya. So first name the branch chain. The name of the branch chain is ethyl. Et kasi 2 carbon. And we will end it with YL kasi nga branch chain na siya. Then we will add the suffix amine. So the name of this compound is ethylamine. Yan. Simple lang. Next one or last functional group we have is the amides. Amides is also have a functional group because it is formed with the reaction of carboxylic group and an amides. So to name the amides, we will just name it just like what we did kanina sa ibang functional group, and we will end it with the suffix amide. Here is the functional group or general formula of an amides. As you can see here, meron tayong carboxyl group and a nitrogen atom connecting to it. Kasi nga sabi kanina, it is a combination of carboxylic acid and an amides. So how we will use this one? Here is the example. Yan. So this would be the functional group. So same with what we did kanina, bilangin lang ang carbon, then remove the letter E and end it with the suffix amide. So here we have 4 carbon and the prefix for 4 carbon is but. So the name of this one is butane. Cancel out the letter E and add the suffix amide to form the name of this compound, which is butanamide. Ganun lang siya. Another example, ayan, 2 carbons. So the name of the alkane of this compound is ethane. Then remove letter E and we will add the suffix amide. So the name of this compound is ethanamide. Now know the identity of the following compounds. It's either carboxylic acid, amides, amine, ester, or amides. Yan. So for letter E, it is an example of an amine. So as you can see here, yung carbon chain ay nakakonect sa isang nitrogen atom. So kapag ganun, that is an amine. Ang tatanda lang dyan kapag may nitrogen lang, nitrogen, connected to an carbon chain, that is an amine. Next, letter F. This is an example of a carboxylic acid. So as you can see here, ito yung kanyang functional group. An oxygen, double bond to carbon, and single bond to hydroxyl group. That is a carboxylic acid. Next, letter G. This is an example of an amides. So as you can see here, may nitrogen siya kasi nga 'di ba, a combination of carboxylic acid and an amine. So we have here amine and a carboxyl group. So this is an amides. Then last, we have letter H, that is an esters. Esters, ang tatandaan nyo lang dyan is ito. Si carbon ay connected sa isang oxygen na may double bond at isang oxygen uli na single bond. That is an ester. Yeah. Now, know my use. I have here some products. All you have to do is to identify its uh, functional group or its compound. What type of compound does they belong? So, first one, we have formalin. So, formalin is an example of an aldehyde. As you can see here on its name, strateldehyde, or it is consists of an aldehyde compound. Next one, we have acetone. Acetone. So it is an example of a ketone. Very good. Next one is methyl butyl ether. Methyl ethyl butyl. Methyl butyl ether is an example of a compound that is used in fuels. Yan, kasi flammable ang mga ethers. So as you can see here sa name, automatically it is an example of an ether. Next one is acetic acid. Yan, yung vinegar natin sa bahay. That is an example of a carboxylic acid. Next one is paramine. Paramine is used to remove the weeds or yung mga ligaw na damo sa mga garden. Yan. Pamatay ng damo si paramines. So, from its name, it is an example of an amine. Next, niacinamide. Yan, niacinamide is an example of a dietary supplements. And from its name, it is an example of an amides. Next, we have the ester C. Yan, for immunity or immune system. From its name, it is uh, considered it or it has an ester compound. Then last, ethyl alcohol is an example of an alcohol. Now, for your test activity today, I want you to answer the module 5. What's more, activity 5.5, know my importance. So, all you have to do is to complete the table. Kay general formula, pwede kayong bumalik sa ating video at tignan ano yung mga general formula ng bawat isang functional group. Then example, nagbigay din ako kanina. And what are the uses? We are now familiar with the following products na merong mga compounds na to. So, pwede na kayo maglagay ng at least one use of the following compounds. Then, kay activity 5.6, know my identity. Based on the structures, identify anong functional group yung bawat structure. So, for this structure, anong compound yan or anong functional group yan? And then, for the last activity, is the what can I do. So you would need to create or construct your hydrocarbon structure. You can choose freely what kind of hydrocarbon structure you want to create. So based on the following criteria, make your own structure of hydrocarbons. So you can use the following materials such as marshmallow for hydrogens, resin for carbons, toothpick for the bonding. Or pwede rin gumamit ng iba. For example, Jolens, Pebbles, it's up to you. Then, take a picture of it. Then, write at least one paragraph that will describe the structure of your hydrocarbon. So, just describe ano ba yung hydrocarbon ng ginawa nyo. Pwede kayong maglagay ng uses, functions, and how they will be formed. Pwedeng mag-search sa internet if you're not sure with what you will be writing on your paragraph. Then, you need to be creative in presenting your output and be guided by the given rubrics. So, your activity or your activity for what can I do, my hydrocarbons will be scored according to this rubric. 40% for content and 40% for visual appeal. Now, if there's no more question about our activity, thank you very much. You can now proceed to your activity. Thank you.